Happy Thursday, guys. We're going to talk about chapters 1 through 3 of Huck Finn. I'm not going to read through all of this PowerPoint. I'm going to post it and then you read through it yourself. But I do want to highlight a few of these things. So when I assign chapters the next day, we'll come in and I'll post a video the next day, a little bit of lecture about those chapters that you skip through here. So things to note at the beginning. There are very few things at the beginning that we need to make sure we understand. And that is that Twain is not being serious about this, so he says. He makes a point of saying that the story is not being told to have a moral or a plot. We know most definitely that is what he is trying to do. He is trying to show that racism is wrong and that slavery was wrong. But a little bit of his humor at the beginning is he says that's not what he's trying to do. He also recognizes his book's going to cause some problems. Even at that time frame, the way he depicts Jim and slavery, that is not appropriate at that time. So a few things you need to note are how Twain starts out the beginning of the book. So read through these points too. So another thing, a point of view, we always talk about that. This is told from Huck's point of view, so it's first person. And humor, please. Point of view, first person. We're reading this from Huck's point of view. Also introduced the first chapter. I'm not going to I'm not going to read through these too much. Please make sure you read through these about Twain's sense of humor. It's a very dry sense of humor that you have to read closely to get you. A little bit of humor of Mark Twain's. We saw this in Life in the Mississippi. This back and forth about religion, and if Tom's going to heaven, well then Huck doesn't want to go to heaven, or if Tom's going to hell, that's where Huck wants to go. So that's a little bit of Twain's. Sometimes understand. I'm going to talk about this. Superstition is a very prominent feature in Huck Finn. In the first chapter alone, we have a lot of circumstances of superstition. Huck himself is very superstitious, and read through this, you'll see those three things that happen already to show us how superstitious Huck is. Two things you need to keep track of: superstition and Tom and Huck and the contrast between them, and then racism. So please make sure and go back and read this. Next, and we won't talk about these every single time. This first bit here, we've got to talk about some of these basics. Some of the themes of Huck Finn. Themes, that's what your author wants you to think about after you've read this piece. Definitely, Twain wants us to think about society versus the individual. This is the theme behind Tom and Huck. Tom is civilized, so to speak, and Huck is not. And so Twain explores what's the difference between Tom and Huck. We're going to do that as we go through the novel. There are several things we'll do. We'll keep track of whether or not we feel like Twain was a racist, whether his handling of something was too much or not. And also we'll look at Tom and Huck. Huck is our main character in this book, and Tom is his foil. So another couple of themes. I'll go over these because I'm not going to spend too much time here. I only have so much time on these videos. Themes. One of the themes about Huck Finn, something Twain wants us to think about, is what does it mean to be civilized? Does it mean you're like Tom and you're civilized as in educated? Or does it civilized mean like Huck, and even though you're not educated, you have a good heart and you tend to do the right things, you have a moral character? So that's really the predominant theme of Twain. These others are present, but that first bullet's really the biggest theme of weakness and superstition. So what I want you to do for deciding whether or not Mark Twain is a racist himself as he handles this, I want you to keep a list, a running list as we go through. There are a lot of chapters in this book, and this is something you're going to have to keep as we go all the way through the book. We'll get a lot of information here at the beginning half of the book, and then that will dwindle some. But I want you to keep a running list of, just like a column, a pro and a con. Take a piece of paper, fold it in half. If you want to work on paper, that's fine too. At the end of it, you can take pictures of this and send it to me. Google Docs, and Google has been so slow and aggravating all of us that it might be better if you would actually work on paper for this and then just send me pictures as we go and as you gather information. You're welcome to do a Google Doc, but that may be a little frustrating. So you're going to keep a pro and a con kind of list. Is this racist? What he says in the book? Is it not racist? Of Huck Finn. As we go through the book, and I noticed this, I noted this in the comments for Google Classroom, I want you to keep a running list, like a pro-con list, side by side. Things that happen in the book, do they support that Twain is a racist or not? So you have several things that happened already in chapter 2 that you can put in the racist column. The way Twain handles Jim. Jim's very superstitious. Jim is not educated. Jim's very gullible when Tom kind of tricks him and things. So you should be noting those things. I would keep this on paper because it seems like Google Docs is slow and we're all having some trouble with it. So if I were you, I would keep this on paper and keep this as a running list. We're going to do this all the way through the book. Okay? Most likely there will be an essay question at the end of the book, whether we're online school or we're in school. Another thing, just a little quote, make sure you read this about what Mark Twain felt about how he showed Jim. Why do we call this racist? Why do people ban this book? Well, there's a lot of N-word. Chapter 2 had a lot of N-word in it, and it is used in just a very informal, matter-of-fact way. That is the way people used the N-word at that time frame. Another reason they call it racist is the way Jim is shown as ignorant, superstitious, his language, everything about him. If we delve into his character later on, you'll see that although Jim is superstitious and not educated, he is by far a better human than most of the other characters in Huck. It's called, this book is banned a lot because of the use of the word "in" and because of the depiction of Jim, how he's handled. So those are the things really to think about when you're drawing that pro-con. So here are some lecture notes. These next two slides are lecture notes about what happened mainly in chapter 2. So pay attention to these 2 points. Point number 1, we see Jim. He fits the stereotypical image of slaves. He's lazy, he tends to exaggerate, he's superstitious. So in your pro-con list for is he racist or not, you would probably label that this is kind of a racist depiction of Jim, isn't it? And why? Same things that are on this slide. He's depicted as lazy and uneducated, ignorant, superstitious. Another thing we need to keep track of too is this contrast between Tom and Huck. They're friends, but they're extremely different. Tom represents society. He represents education. Please read down through Tom. I'm not going to read all of these to keep this video short. But then also, okay, how does Huck contrast? Well, Huck is the kid from the wrong side of the tracks. He's not educated. He is a little bit ignorant. He's more superstitious. So make sure you keep note of things and situations and have a list of is it racist or not. Lecture notes. So this I will go through the last couple of slides every single time, and we'll look at those chapters that we already read. 2 major things happen in chapter 2. We are introduced to Jim, and he is this prototype, this stereotype of slaves and slavery and what that represents in Huck Finn's book. And then also we need to look at Tom and Huck because we see both of them. They're contrasted. When you read Shakespeare last year, we had a foil character. Romeo was our main character, always in love, lovesick. His life was about love. And then we had another character who made fun of love all of the time. He didn't believe in it, and he made fun of it and made fun of Romeo for it. That's Mercutio. So Mercutio is Romeo's foil. In the same way, Tom is Huck's foil. Huck is our main character. Tom is the antithesis. He's the exact opposite of what Huck is. So we have Tom as a character in order to kind of shine a light on Huck and say, okay, Huck doesn't have these things. He's not educated, but Huck does have something that Tom doesn't, and that's a heart and honesty. So then chapter 3 notes, Please read through this. This talks a little bit more about how they're foils to each other. That's it for today. Hey, I did notice some of you pop on last night, kind of late. That's fine for you. If that's when you do your classwork, whatever. I just want the classwork done. But just know if you email me or you try to Zoom me after probably about 4 or 5 o'clock, I'm not answering. I mean, I got a bunch of emails. I woke up to about 14 emails this morning from students who have been working like 11, 12, 1 in the morning. You won't get an answer till the next day for that, guys. So I hope you're all healthy and well. Hopefully we can find a time maybe tomorrow. Watch your messages on Google Classroom. I would really like to Zoom with you all tomorrow, but looking at the schedule and how other teachers are Zooming, I want to make sure we don't conflict with other things so that we actually get some time. So keep an eye on Google Classroom. Probably, look and see, have I said, hey, at this time on Friday, we'll all Zoom together and we'll just talk a little bit about what we think of Huck Finn so far. Hope you're doing well. Don't forget to answer that question that I posted on Google Classroom at the end. You're supposed to write a paragraph on what you think about PAP. Your reading chapters are 4 to 6, and open a Google Doc up, and you can use Pages too, just as long as you download it as a PDF to the assignment. So I'll talk to you later, guys. Hope everybody's well and healthy.